What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Align Your Mojo, where I, Coach Orlando of Align Performance, sit with Coach Mojo. We enjoy each other's company, have some good conversation, and talk about how we and you can find our mojo, be that best version of ourselves that allows us to have the best chance to live our best life. So that's what the show is about. Sometimes we talk dating, sometimes we talk world, sometimes we talk friendship, sometimes we just talk looking inside ourselves. But at the end of the day, it's all about finding your mojo, that version of you that's quintessential you. So Mojo,
Amen.
what is going on?
Amen to that. What he said.
There you go. There you go. There you go. I got it right. That time.
Hey.
Yeah, what's going on with you?
You know, today is a good day. The sun is shining. It's almost the most wonderful time of the year. You know, the summer, my favorite season. So it's all good. I'm happy to be here chatting with my guy.
You'll hear us reference that we have birthdays coming up. We share July birthdays just a couple days apart. So it's a whole season. It's a whole season for Align now.
And it's starting right now.
I love it. And I love how you celebrate. I don't know how you manage to do the big birthday thing and never seem like the diva, the bridezilla, the whatever you want to. Like, I never get that vibe. I never ever get that vibe.
I'm sure I can be like that. I don't think it's too bridezilla-ish, but I definitely have to have my things a certain way. And the day of, especially when I'm throwing it myself, I've smartened up. I've wisened up the last couple of years, and I hire a party planner. But for 20 years, I've been throwing my own birthday party, and it's not easy. And I like a theme. I got to theme it all out. So I don't know how I managed to have fun too, but I did it.
Right.
Yes. But
how did that all start? Like, were you somebody who, when you were a kid, did big birthday things, or is this like,
you know what?
Like what started it?
That is so funny. You asked my family. I always wonder how I started doing it, but my family always had barbecues and all the things every summer. But I feel like my mother and her friends used to come over and have brunches and stuff. And I was like, this is so much fun. And then I realized too, on some birthdays, I'm like, dang, I didn't even do anything for my birthday. But I was like, why am I sitting around waiting for somebody to do something for my birthday? If I want them to do something, then I'm going to invite the people over. We're going to do the thing.
Right.
So that's how I started. I think I started at my 30th birthday. And I've just been doing them ever since. I want to say it might have been before 30, but that's when I remember the most. Yeah.
So 5 years. It's been 5 years.
Gotta celebrate you. Exactly. Not that long at all. Gotta celebrate yourself. Worry about yourself, like the little girl says. Yes.
I like it. I used to be much more of a partier. You know that. I'll talk to you about that. So it used to always be this, that, out partying. We're going to go here. We're going to do that. The last little stretch of life, COVID didn't help because COVID made everybody sit down.
Yeah.
But the last little stretch of life, more and more, my 50th birthday, nobody could believe it. Daphne was shocked. I spent my 50th birthday in this office playing video games. Daphne brought me food a couple of times. And when I tell you, it was
video games,
exactly what I want. Like, it was, I may have watched some YouTube videos, you know what I mean? But like, it was like, you want to go hang out? I do not. You want to do? I do not. I do not want to do.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because what do I want to do on my actual birthday? Because that, the party's usually another day. That's a great question I need to ask for myself. My best guy friend, his birthday was last Monday, and he did something he's never done. He said, now I know what you girls mean about self-care. He got a manicure, a pedicure, a massage, and a facial. He said it was a beautiful time. He said, I should have been doing this before. Now I get what you girls out there doing.
I think men in general, not all, really need, I'm not saying you do this or do that. If you don't want to get a manicure, don't get a manicure. You don't want to get a massage, don't get a massage. I'm not here for that. But I will tell you, there are a number of reasons women live longer. And that list you just had could be on some folks' list. That's all I'm saying. When I was in New York, I'll occasionally have my nails painted. And I really prefer to have it. I'm like, how you go straight from never painted my nails before to straight up bougie in like 5 seconds?
I'm
like, I want them in there with.
That's what makes us
massage
all our unique
my
selves.
forearms. You know what I'm saying?
You finding your mojo just like that. Look at that.
Ooh, when they massage my forearms, I'll be like, ooh, I'm a married man, ma'am.
Not the forearms. I love it.
I was like, I like this. So no, I think it's but we joke around, but for real, I do think it's so important. I think most guys, it's just not what we were brought up on, or at least to think of it that way, right? Like in a way, that's what I was doing when I was hanging out all day on Sunday watching football, having a few beers, right? That's what I
Mm-hmm.
was doing. But when you do it consciously, excuse me, I think you have an opportunity to really like, even if, as an example, even if I am going to hang out and watch some football,
Mm-hmm.
I now do it with the level of awareness that I'm relaxing now and I am enjoying football. So
Something
I'm
about
not
being present.
doing my work, or I'm not right. Like that's what I'm doing. Whereas I think for years of my life, it was just sort of like mindless stuff. Saying that out loud, and we can get to our actual topic 5 minutes in. But saying that out loud, it made me think about why for me, and I think for a lot of guys I know, not that women don't game, but I think, this is the particular dynamic I'm talking about, why video games are really good for,
Mm-hmm.
I got to get out of this. I got to get out of this crazy
Mm-hmm.
world stuff, because they do consume you, and it literally, like, your hands are occupied.
Mm-hmm.
That like active part
Yeah,
of your
that's
brain
true.
gets occupied. And I think it's like, now I'm not saying playing video games is meditation, but in some ways I think there is a level of like presence and mindfulness and sort
Mindfulness, I
of like
like.
shutting everything else out. Like it is very rare if I'm in the middle of playing a video game that I'm then suddenly like, oh, I didn't pay such and such a bill. Now maybe I should. We could get into that conversation, but like I think there's something about like being consumed that way
Mm-hmm.
that allows me, at least, to relax. But anyway, back to what were we talking about again?
Today's topic is
Yeah, yeah.
power. Power.
Oh, that's right. Well, this is some of this, and we'll talk about why is related to the conversation we want to have about power, and just how do we make ourselves powerful in our own lives. So I want us to start out actually by asking you about power, and just when I texted, "Hey, let's talk power." I mean, you've heard me talk about some stuff we'll bring up today, overpower, empower, and we're always working for alignment and trying to be as effective as we can be. Yeah, what was your reaction? And when you think about power, what comes to mind for you?
What comes to my reaction, we can talk about any old thing. So I just said, okay. I would have said, okay, whatever you want to talk about. But what I first thought about, from some reason, even now when you're saying is my song, my Lil Kim song, Money, Power, Respect, what you need in life, you'll see it in life.
Yeah,
What's
that's a
the key to life?
classic.
That's what was on repeat in my head ever since I read that. So I think I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
thinking,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
my thought pattern went to just how everybody it thought it made me think of, like, today, what's going on in, like, the world and politics and stuff,
Mhm.
and power. The power, how everybody's just fighting to have the power.
Right,
That's what I thought
right.
about.
Right, right. And in that case, I mean, certainly in money, power, respect, and in the kind of power you're talking about, it's power over people, right? So when they talk about
Mhm.
money, power, respect in that song, it's not like, Eckhart Tolle, oh, the power of now. They talk
Yes.
about the power of, I can make you do stuff, I can make you give me stuff, I could buy stuff,
Mhm.
power
Mhm.
over, right? So
Mhm.
that's interesting.
And I would love, can you
Yeah.
say what the definition of power is, though? 'Cause that's what really started making my wheels turn when you told me.
Yeah, so I'll give a little well, actually, no, I will give the definition first, and I won't ADHD y'all out. So so the definition that I landed on, and some of these are always being worked, but it's been some years now. It's been a good 4 or 5 years of like this definition, so I think it's pretty solid. But at any rate, that power is the effective management of attention and intention, right? So I'll talk more about all the elements of that as we go through today. But part of why I wanted to bring it up for folk is I think there's a lot in the world right now that can feel like it's happening to us, that we're just sort of the objects of, hey y'all, we in a war with Iran, right? Or whatever it is, right? Whether it's that or it's your friends always have dinner here and now they have a dinner over there and you can't get over there, right? Like whatever it is,
Mhm.
it just feels like a lot of life just easily happen to us. And I think it's important for us to, people use phrases like claim our power and so on, but I think it's important if we're going to say that to people to get clear about what power actually is and how it functions generally for us and how it functions for each of us.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that was what got me on the topic, is several things that have come up recently that I've been looking at. I've been thinking, yeah, that's a power issue. That's how, like, what is your capacity
Mhm.
for power? So yeah, that's, but the definition is the effective management of in attention and intention.
Okay. Effective management, attention, and intention. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna rewind a little bit and jump in there like we do, like you do.
Mhm.
But I was listening to, I was gonna say reading, but I know people getting their feelings about audiobooks. So as not to offend any of the purists. I was listening to a book called Joy on Demand.
Uh,
And this man was talking about a number of things. But what he talked about, and I wish I could remember his name right now because he's been out there and he's been around. But anyway,
as soon as we
he,
finish this, you'll remember.
of course, but that he was working at Google. They started this mindfulness group basically, and it had all these like unbelievably powerful impacts throughout the organization. So this little thing, and then it ends up with this man like then building his own name around this mindfulness stuff.
Wow.
He like met with the Dalai Lama. Like it was crazy. It's kind of wild.
Mhm.
But the reason I bring it up is that I was listening to Joy on Demand. If I remember correctly, it was not long after I got my ADHD diagnosis. So I'd be putting it in around 2021. And but it hit me, excuse me, how big of a deal. Like we're talking about mindfulness, right? And like our attention, our attention, our attention. I was like, attention's a big deal. And obviously, just having gotten my ADHD diagnosis, the word attention was getting my
Mhm.
attention. And so as I thought about it, I was like, well, what is power? Like, and I reached back to my, AP physics from high school. And I remember that power is work over time. So whatever thing you moved, as
Mhm.
you moved it, it's how long it took you to move it. So power lifts, right? If you when you do your deadlift, that's kind of explosive action. That's the power, right?
Mhm.
That's the actual power. Strength, if it took you 2 days to lift it, that's still strength. But power is how fast can you get that weight up.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
And so that's work over time. And so as I thought about it, I was like, wow, that's really it's a simple thing to say, but when we look at it in our lives, I think it's a pretty big deal. And that started me down this road of, okay, so then what is the deal with attention? So I'll start there. And that attention, that's, where are we devoting our energy?
Mhm.
Now, usually
Mhm.
we think about it as like what we're looking at, thinking of, but I've tried to expand it a bit in terms of attention. It's like whatever energy I have that I'm putting out, that's attention.
Mhm.
So, how effectively am I managing it? Part of the challenge, people think ADHD means that like your attention just goes out at 360 degrees around you. And I guess for some people, there's some of that experience of like distractions, and that's a thing. But more importantly, I shouldn't say more importantly, more impactfully in my life, it is I could sit here as I did this weekend and put in 10 hours of creative work on some music, right? At the same time, there's some paperwork I'm supposed to have taken care of months ago, and that's being very generous.
Mm.
And some of the challenge of ADHD, and I think that helped to put me in touch with what I'm saying about power. Part of the challenge of ADHD is that I'm not always in control of that choice. That I'm gonna put my attention here as opposed
Okay.
to here.
Okay. I never thought about that.
My
Okay.
brain will be like, yeah, but this music is great. And so it's not, you can't focus. And one of the things that I learned when I was first diagnosed was that a lot of people have had the experience of being told when they do or get a late diagnosis of having been told a lot. Well, I know you're smart. Look at what you do with blah, blah, blah. Well, I know you're smart because you learn this, so you do that, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yes, I find that interesting. And so my brain turns on and I can knock it out. I find this other thing we talk about not interesting. And so my brain is like, I ain't doing it. And I don't care who say we got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, yeah, so the attention piece, I think, is critical. Getting real clear on that. Actually, I have something I want to put in front of you and see what your thoughts were on this.
Okay.
We talk about paying attention, and I think that's really an important phrase in this attention economy we're in. And that's a real thing. And I can go off about why I think like cancel culture actually matters and all this other stuff, because I think right now, for the vast majority of us, our attention is the thing we have that's really the most craved. People want our attention. These platforms want our attention. The White House wants our attention. Our attention is what we have to offer right now. And also because the wealth gap is what it is, we don't have the percentage of money. If I took all the money I have or will have and threw it at Elon Musk, he would duck.
Or he wouldn't duck.
You know what I'm saying? Well, then there's that. But you know what I'm saying? So I think our attention is more important than we think. And people say that we should pay attention. And I actually am going to encourage people to do something different. I want your take on this. I think we should be talking about investing attention. See, if I pay for something, I pay for anything. I pay you for a crappy umbrella if it's raining. No, I'm going to use it once. I pay for stuff all the time. But when I decide to invest, now that doesn't mean it has to be high-minded, right? I could invest my attention in playing that video game or resting or working on my book or talking to my wife, right? But like if you thought of it as an investment, I think it would impact our choices and our experience. So let me just put that in front of you for a moment as we talk about finding our mojo and aligning our mojo. What's your thought there in terms of investing?
I'm a fan of the podcast. So, I listen to podcasts all the time. And one of the link, I don't even remember, but I definitely keep Jay Shetty and what's my girl, what's my girl that I love that book she was. What does it say, Jess? Let Them. That's my girl. Let Them.
Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins and Oprah, of course, in rotation. So this latest installment, which is talking about what you kind of hit on earlier, just, paying attention and being present, of course, I'm sure they use, but it's like what you said, if you're investing in attention, you're even active. And, people say that when they're in pain, they try to think about something else or distract themselves. So I thought about that as you were talking. So if you're investing in attention, you're really investing and putting all of your, your mind, your body, all of it into that one thing. So yeah, I definitely feel
I love that you point out presence, because I think that is a part of it, right? Like I think, like just think about the time you spend with your friends. You were just talking about your birthdays, getting the party planner. Well, part of that, because we've talked about it, I know, is like you were so busy doing this and this and this and this. Like, did you get to really interact with your friends the way you wanted to because you were busy being, the birthday girl and the party planner? So you were like, let me get somebody else this other job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we have, like, whenever we're with someone, we have an opportunity right then and there to either pay attention or invest attention. Are we investing in the relationship? And that could just mean listening. That could mean cracking a joke. But like, are you looking to add to the value for you, for the relationship, for the other person in your interactions? And that doesn't have to mean like, I bought you or I'm going to specifically teach you I think one of the things that's been most interesting for me as a parent is one of the best hacks for investing attention as a parent is to frankly shut the F up. That as I've been better at just making room for my now 21-year-olds, Lord have mercy, to say what they have to say or say nothing, right? To drive along for a couple miles in silence and just let it percolate.
Yeah.
the better the relationships have been and the better my parenting has been, frankly.
I like that a lot.
So I don't want to say the investing attention thing that like now you got to have, more quote unquote quality time. So we're gonna go over here, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that, we're gonna get matching this, and we could get but like no. And
I like
the
matching.
investment can look different. The investment looks like what it needs to look like to improve the relationship or to invest in yourself. But yeah, it doesn't have to be. I
So
read
let me
this
ask you
really tough
this.
book.
When you were talking about investing attention versus paying attention, it made me
Hmm.
also think about, news stories, social, whether it be on the television, social media,
Hmm.
how they say a lot. When you hear a lot of people, they have a lot of conspiracy theories, or they are also hear a lot that the news is trying to distract us from like what's really going on, so
Right.
to speak. So
Right.
how do you
Right.
feel like paying attention and investing attention is, how do
That's a
you
great.
address it
That's a
there?
that's a great way to frame it, that part of the conversation, because I think that is true. I think there are a lot of distractions sent at us. My politics are what they are. I don't think anybody's like in the dark about how I feel. Excuse me. So I would say that like this MAGA movement, it's a weird thing to say like, oh, they're great at this about something that I find to be negative, but they are great at consuming your attention. They and he particularly, but they as a group, they are great. Think about the number of mornings you've woken up. I know I've woken up and been like, Lord have mercy, what they do today. So what do?
Mm-hmm.
I go to Facebook or I go to Instagram or I go to whatever. I have been on TikTok. I still have to read up on whether or not I mess with TikTok. There's so many things that we gotta be careful
I
about. But anyway,
know. That
but
too.
you know what I mean? And so like, yeah, I think there's an opportunity when we're looking at all this to say, okay, what do I need to know? And I know for me,
Yes,
I
what
was
do I
getting
need to know?
over
That's a
invest,
great
you know what I'm
question to
saying?
ask
And
yourself.
then
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have to read, I know that blank said blank, or this one did this, or that number went here. Okay, now I know it. There, there are a couple of people whose analysis, one guy, Reese Waters, I just think is hilarious and very smart.
Mhm.
And then there's the I've had it podcast as well.
Oh, I'll have
So I
to
just want
ask
to
you that
shout both of
offline,
them.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's these two white women, and I bumped into them because one of them did like a whole rant, like at least like probably like a year and a half ago, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Ooh, somebody done woke these white ladies up. Let me go over there and see what they talk about, because they do not, they are not with the
I've
foolishness.
had it. I gotta look that up. Okay.
I've had in pocket. They be letting they say it how they feel it. I'll just leave it at that. So I really like them. So I will watch them in part to, it's almost like commiserating.
Mm.
I learn from them. They tell me about things I didn't know happened. So it can be dual purpose, but
Mhm.
it also helps me to keep my sanity, to have some folk who see the world roughly the way I do
Mhm.
say the things that I am feeling as I hear this news, or so I think we can decide how much that we're going to invest. But what I was doing sometimes that I had to be mindful of is I was spending so much time on this stuff and I was paying so much attention to it.
Mhm.
It was literally making me sick.
Mhm.
That's literally, I was finding myself ill and going, oh, yeah, that was about 4 days after Renee Good. Oh, yeah, that was about 3 days after blah, blah, blah. But yeah. And you go, okay, so now I needed a strategy to be like, I don't want to be
Mhm.
completely ignorant. I want to be informed, but I'm going to be sick, especially because it don't seem like folk getting ready to change their behavior. So I'll be sick a lot.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think deciding how much do I need to know and how do I want to take it in is a great example of that. And the opposite direction, I actually enjoy some of the exchanges on social media. I
Yeah,
think in
yeah.
some ways a lot of it has run its some of it has run its course. I think the novelty of like, oh, we're gonna debate politics now. I think
Mhm.
people are either in and they're gonna be in probably till forever, or they got bored of it and they moved on. Like I think we're in a different phase of like social media stuff right now. But there are definitely moments I would have gotten involved with in terms of arguing that I like look at it and shake my head and keep it moving. Now there's some conversations I do engage in, but I'm doing it all much more consciously. I think earlier in the time of social media, it was almost like, well, somebody just said this ignorant thing. Like I have to go address it.
Mhm.
It's like, no, no, and especially not, you know what I mean? Especially not if it's gonna help make you sick. Like you definitely ain't
Mhm.
gotta do it then. So yeah, I think paying attention, and I even talk about the attention piece being around capacity as well,
Now how
right?
so? Tell me more about that.
Well, how much attention you got to give, right? Like I have the brain
Yeah,
power
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have the resources I have. You know what I'm saying? So like in a way to me, if I pay for something, that is a brand of attention.
Mhm.
Right. I'm opening up the idea of attention. It's like, where am
Mhm.
I putting I keep saying energy. I guess in some ways it's resources, but it's like, where you put,
Yeah. Yeah.
we've all had the times where we saving and that sort of attentional focus on building
Mhm.
savings. And there has been some other times in my life where I was focused on a good time. I wasn't paying any attention right. And
Mhm.
that goes the way that goes. But yeah, I think it's what is that attention piece is like, what is your capacity? And I think it's important to consider that in a general way because it's not always going to be the same. You might not
Mhm.
feel well. Maybe you didn't get great sleep. Maybe something else is bothering you. Maybe as much as you care about A, right now you got to deal with B. I was
Yeah.
talking,
Yeah.
obviously those who watch Ro Delagrassi, Mama Moody, and I were talking one day, and she said, "Yeah, like I want to help with the revolution, but I got to wipe up butt."
That sounds just like
And I was like, that's exactly right.
Mhm.
That's life, right? Like you go
Right.
like, yeah, of course. I don't want there to be world hunger, but you know what? Right now there's Orlando hunger. Like I gotta
Right.
eat lunch.
That's right.
And it doesn't diminish caring about the other people. It's just
Mhm.
that's what it is sometimes. Now I did want to talk about the other side of it. And again, it's been a lot of my voice today, but I did want to introduce some of this stuff. So thanks for riding with me. But
Mhm.
but the other side of it being intention.
Mhm.
Right? So you have this capacity, you have this energy, you can use it to build a house, build a business, build a relationship. You can use
Mhm.
it to rest and search for meaning within yourself. I mean, I don't mean to make it all productivity capitalist stuff, right? And intention is that, right?
Mhm.
Intention is for us when we for ourselves, for the company, or when we work with clients, when we have them articulate the point. Like,
Mhm.
where are we going? What are we trying to do? Everything doesn't have to be life changing.
Right.
My intention right now could be to go get some lunch.
Mhm.
What's my capacity around that? Time, resources. Do I cook? Do I go grab something? Right? Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
decide how I'm going to pay attention to it or not. But I'm going to pay. But if I have that clear intention. So, this is where the align methodology helps me because I am capable of saying, oh, I'm putting 10 hours of work on this music that's very interesting to me and work I need to do for what we're doing creatively, but we wouldn't spend an hour yesterday, right, on management stuff or administrative stuff. I have to get clear about my intentions so that I'm investing my attention in ways that are most beneficial to me and most likely to
Most
get me to the
beneficial.
point,
Yes, yes.
right?
Mhm.
And that intention piece is really big because I think that is when we get to go. That is, I think, when we're able to say, "Oh, my attention is being invested in the wrong spot." I was talking
Okay.
about video games earlier, but
Mhm.
as we sit here and record, that I'm really trying to build up Substack, Align Originals, it's Align ecosystem, universe, what have you, where people can get all this different information and interchange and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So for like
Mhm.
the last 6 months,
Mhm.
I haven't really touched the sticks. Like you know what I mean? Like I just been on what
Yeah, I only remember knowing that you like video games. Cool, cool.
really only play sports games and most recently only play like football games. So I am not like
Okay.
a traditional like, oh, this
Okay.
came out, that came out.
You know what you
And so
like.
they came out with NCAA football again. So I was messing with that pretty heavy for a while. But when I'm clear about my intention, then I can make better decisions around it. So yeah, I put it down. But the
Mhm.
other day I did think like I might start playing again, like maybe on Sundays.
Mhm.
Just because I know like what I get from it, but it's intentional, right? Like now
Yeah,
I am
yes.
moving toward what it is I'm trying to do.
I remember listening to a podcast again talking about being present. I think it was Eckhart Tolle or it was Deepak Chopra, I forget which. But I remember it's when I first started thinking about the ability or the importance of being present. I'm like, well, how can you? Then I was like, well, how do you plan your party, right? How do you pay your bills if I'm always being present? They were like,
Hmm.
you make time to do all of those things, but the time that you're
That's
supposed
right.
to be playing your video games, you shouldn't be thinking about planning your party or
That's
paying
it.
your bills. Like you got to be, you can plan stuff, but
Okay.
you make a time to plan, but you
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah.
shouldn't be playing while you're
That's
supposed
a
to play your
great
video game. Mhm.
distinction. Yeah, that's a great distinction. The point you make about using time intentionally to plan for the future is I like that was a huge learning for me. It's funny that you mentioned Eckhart Tolle because that may have been actually where I thought about it consciously, right? It's like if you're doing the planning, you are being present. And that was a big aha for me. Because I had the question you had, which is like, well, I mean, we're just gonna hop from moment to moment. Like my life gonna be a
Yes.
mess.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
But I love that it's not like living out there. Like you address the future, but you address it from the present. And I thought that, now where I ran into trouble was addressing the past because I would really travel to past, and that's trauma response stuff and whatever too. But like I can really get to where there are events in my life where I could feel it in my body as if it's not just like I'm remembering it, like it's happening again. So yeah, I think it's really important to just keep
The
reminding yourself, like come back to the
the
moment.
podcast that I was listening to the other day when I was on my little jog run, she asked him, "Well, when are you happiest? When are you having joy?" And he said, "Right now. Because I'm always present." He was like, "Your past, you can't do anything about it. So I try not to be, he doesn't say I try not to be. He said I do not beat myself up
Hmm.
about it because what can you do? And that
Hmm.
the best gift we have to ourselves is the present. We're here." So when you put it like
Yeah.
that, I'm like, oh yeah, how true is that? We are present. So he said,
Yeah.
I'm having a good time right now. I'm happy right
Hmm.
now because I am present. I was like,
Right. Well, and in my, I'm always on the work. Talking to my therapist, we talked about this. And I said to him, look, I don't imagine that anybody could perfectly, or not even perfectly is probably a word I don't want to get into, but like could thoroughly, completely always be in the moment. I talked to him about, and what I'll say to you, in a lot of ways, again, the Align methodology is set up to make it most likely that you can experience that moment of Zen, that you can be in the zone, right? Because you address who you are, you address where you are, you address where you want to go. Your intention is clear. If you are investing your attention in that clear direction of your intention, right? Everything's in place for
mm,
you to be in the zone.
that was
That
so
doesn't mean it's
good for
going to
you.
have
Can,
to.
can you say that again? Say that again. That was so good. Do you remember what you said?
Sure. Like what we're doing is we're aligning who we are, and where we want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that clear sense of self, that clear sense and honest assessment of where we are, and a real vision that we're moving toward in terms of where we want to go, right? Like that's all covered. And we've also then done correctly, we've looked at how, right? So we know, like your example from earlier, right now I'm writing this email. Maybe I do have to edit videos. Maybe I do have to whatever. But right now, what I'm doing, right, is writing this email. And we can be fully there because we've given every how, a where, and a when. So theoretically, when that part of your brain that's like, oh, don't forget, whatever, you're able to go, okay, fine. Thanks for the reminder. But that's scheduled for Friday at 11. Right? You've
Yep.
done that. So it's also you free yourself up to be in the moment. Now the mistake I make is I teach other people to do this, and then I think for some reason that I'm the magic man and I'm gonna hold everything in my head, and then
Mm-hmm.
I drive myself and everybody else crazy. But right when we actually go through that process, we set ourselves up to be to make it most
And I
likely that
think
we're
the
in the
first,
zone.
yeah, and the first step is even recognizing that is a thing, that you are not present. That's the first step right there. It's like, okay, I'm not writing this email.
So I love that. Here's a cheat code. I probably told you this one before, but we'll pretend that I'm so the cheat code is get in the habit of asking yourself if you're being present.
Mhm.
Because you can't answer the question from anywhere but the present. So even if you weren't being present, the habit of asking yourself will always bring you back to the moment so you could check.
Mhm.
So either you're already in the moment, great, but if you're not, the question itself sends you back to the moment because there's no other way to know.
Okay. Right. Yes.
So
Love that.
that's my little hack when I feel like I'm getting a bit scattered. I'll just literally just keep asking myself, like, am I being present? Am I being present? Am I being present? And it just sort of gets that habit back of being here now.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the power piece. We'll come around to it from a slightly
Mhm.
different angle based on
Mhm.
what you were asking there. When we have the clarity I was just talking about, right? I was just talking to Ro about this. This has led me to this idea of the moment of when. This is a totally aligned concept because, as you know, every how gets aware and people talk about the moment of Zen, right? So the moment of Zen, theoretically, I'm walking down the street, I look at a tree, the vibrance of the green, the blue of the sky behind it, whatever. I am totally in the moment, totally taking in what's happening here, moment of Zen, right? My theory is that there's something that I find more, but I don't want to, but that I find powerful, which is the moment of when, which is having the experience I just described of total awareness and like personal engagement, but in a moment you intended, right? So, for example, as I'm sitting here with you right now, seriously and literally, I'm having a moment of when right now. I feel totally present. I'm aware that there's a whole world going on outside this office. I'm just not paying any attention to it right now. Right. I'm totally here. And I believe that that's me living out what I asked my therapist about several years ago. How do I live more and more of my life in the zone? And I
Mm.
believe that our approach is a powerful tool for doing.
'Cause I mean, just as you're saying that, maybe I'm not in my Zen moment, but it was just as you were saying, it just made me realize how much you can use the methodology in anything. I know that
Mhm,
already, but as you
mhm,
said that, I was thinking about people who
mhm,
use that in arguments.
mhm.
If you're intentional about what you wanna say, how you wanna say it, when you wanna say it.
Yep.
Anyway, it just
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's power, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's power, the ability because, and we can talk about overpower and power in a second, but what you just said about when to say something. If you move the right way with other people and you get that influence way up there, we talk about impact and influence. That influence part around the relationships around you, that's an unbelievable way to increase your power. One day somebody said to me, I wasn't even trying to do something for myself. Somebody had an immigration issue. This was several years ago. It's not part of OSI stuff, but they had an immigration issue and the person needed an immigration attorney yesterday. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like it was
mhm.
like, and so I went on Facebook and I said, hey, folks, like I will consider this is not for me, but I will consider it a personal favor. If anybody has any leads or if you're an attorney,
Mhm.
da da da, people writing in, da da da, tagging other people, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
So later on, I was talking to somebody about it. My friend Diane, who you may have met Diane, but anyway, my friend Diane, and she said, Orlando, your network is insane.
You
I just hadn't
see?
thought about it. Like I was like, I just asked my friends for some help.
Mhm.
But that is a that is
That's
that
dope,
is a
yeah.
way to augment your attention, your capacity, right? Is like I have people I can reach out to who will add their attention in the direction of my intention.
Oh, I love that. I love
That makes
that.
me more powerful.
That's a great quotable right there. I hope you get that snapshot right there. Snapshot of that segment.
So
Mhm.
yeah, we'll say that. But yeah, I think that's a big deal. And part of why we ask people about their team and all that. And some of these things have like crystallized for me later, where I go, oh, that's why. So there's some things that were a part of the system that I knew belonged there. And it wasn't years, it was years later. I was like, that's why that helps. That's why that helps. So yeah, no, I think that's a huge piece.
So you're saying
Where
you're
do
gonna go
you,
into go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I didn't know you said you want to get into overpower and empower.
I do, but and maybe this will actually lead us there. Where in your life do you see either the need for you to claim, build, leverage power? Like where do you see yourself doing it, or where do you see
I
yourself
mean,
needing to do it?
probably several different areas, but the one that comes to mind is probably what I've been talking to you about lately. Is just in work at like my professional 9 to 5 job. I need to
Hmm.
empower myself to. I'm comparing myself to a lot of people in terms of thinking. I feel like we're all good at different things, but
Right,
I find myself thinking because I'm not as good as that thing in that meeting as that person is, that my point of view, my input isn't as important or that powerful, even if you will. That I don't even need to say nothing because she said all of that. It doesn't matter what I have to
right,
say, right? That's
right.
what I
Which is two
compare.
different things, right? It's interesting, like we move things around together sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing is sometimes the other person did say it. You know what I mean? Like you had a
Mm-hmm.
thought that like, oh, well, we should do the Q3, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Sharon from accounting beat you to that point. And yeah, you don't need to repeat it just so everybody in the room knows you thought it too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny that you then translated that into, so apparently I don't have anything worthwhile to say. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's subtle. This camera drives me crazy, but it's subtle. I talk with my hands too much, as we'll find out. But it's subtle, but I think it's very important that we tell ourselves a whole story sometimes based on that kind of stuff. And one ain't got
All the
nothing to do
time.
with the other. Like just because somebody
Mm-hmm.
made a point you was planning on making, like, well, maybe you don't need to speak on that right now, but it doesn't mean you should never speak again because what?
And I even still, if they're like good at, like, I'm in publishing, so even if they're really good at thinking of a creative way to to bind the book, right? But that's
Hmm.
what they're good at. I might be good at telling you who would like it bound that way or who's interested in
Right.
that or just a better way to distribute the book. But because I
Hmm.
wasn't as good at that thing, I think that my thing that I'm good at might not shine as much, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? My
Yeah, it
point
does
is,
make sense. It makes all the
okay,
sense in the world. No, it makes all the sense in the world. And not necessarily also I think you speak to a very interesting element of attention because you have attentional capacity, right? Your attentional stability is a different conversation. I talked about that with the ADHD stuff. But like if we're talking about the way we talk about attention, you're diminishing your own power because you're creating resistance in your system. And I won't get into the whole electrical thing
absolutely
I
I am.
have
That's
off of it, but
exactly
I'm
what I'm
writing
doing.
about it.
That's
But
exactly right.
the energy you're spending on I'm not good enough is energy you could be spending on coming up with your next idea, which could just be how could I do the work I'm already doing easier so that I have more attention to go learn this or do that, or maybe not even like maybe whatever it is. But you are definitely expending energy and paying attention with intention you could be investing
Mhm. Mhm.
at that point.
Indeed.
Does that make sense the way I'm saying it?
Yes. And I'm going down a
Yeah.
rabbit hole too, child.
I yeah, no, I like it. And I think it's important for people to think about this for themselves. And now that we did this, I maybe we make this into a whole series. We'll talk about it a little bit more. But I think it's this idea of power and how do you develop yourself into someone. Look, the point of the matter is
Finish.
power is a functional thing, you know? Power is
Mhm.
a functional thing. And so when we talk to people about developing their power, their ability to do more work, less time, roughly, right? It could be whatever combination that we're really talking about people having better experiences in their lives, right?
Absolutely.
Excuse me, I talked to you earlier. I think I'm developing emotional power. People talk about emotional intelligence, but in the therapy work, with the coaching work, with the thinking, the philosophy,
Mhm.
an example. I grew up my whole growing up into adulthood, whatever. Orlando at his time. Woo boy. Oh boy, they done set Orlando off. Here come the
Mhm.
fireworks.
Mhm.
Well, with the work I've done, I've done mindfulness work and meditation and that somatic work and therapy and da 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 da. I'm to where now there are certain physical sensations I have that let me know, ooh, you just started down the road to getting met.
Mm. Mm.
Then because I've done the work I've done around what triggers me, it's like, oh, well, is it, halt? Is it hungry, angry, lonely, tired? No, might be more specific. Is somebody being unfair? Is it what at one point in my life could be months of anger and unpacking and figuring out and changes and whatever can now literally be like a minute. I'm not even kidding.
Mhm.
So that's emotional power. Like I am actually moving myself in terms of my emotional state, work over far less time.
Mhm.
So that's emotional power. That may seem like, oh, big deal. It's a huge deal. Those are months that I can spending time with my
Mhm.
wife in a way that's not
Now,
distracted.
what's the difference between emotional intelligence and power?
Well, I think that the power part is functional, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I couldn't
Like
agree
I
with
can
you more.
sit here and theoretically be strong. I
Yes,
may
yes.
be or I am not. I can only be powerful once I'm moving stuff, right? So the emotional power, the emotional intelligence increases our capacity to leverage it into emotional power. That's the way I
Okay.
would frame it.
Okay. I like it.
That's
I'm
brand new.
glad I
That's
asked you
that's
that.
hot off the presses. I never said it
Watch
like that
out.
before, but
I
yeah,
like that
yeah.
though. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big deal. The idea I want to leave off with today, because I am mindful of time as we talk about power, and then I just want to ask you in a general way what we can maybe how we might apply this together, or how we continue the conversation. I think this is a good topic for us.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that there are two basic frameworks for power, or there's a framework around power? There are two basic directions. I'm always breaking things down into two. Somebody said there's two types of people in the world: people who break stuff into two and people who don't, which I thought was very funny. But that aside, I guess that's a perfect Orlando joke. That's just ridiculous. But the two sides to this coin, and I don't even want to get into all the ways we see it, but I think it could be our conversation next time. And it's overpower and empower. And it's just what it sounds like. In the overpower model, whatever attention and intention you have, you're in part looking to impose, right, to get toward whatever it is you're trying to get toward. So whether that's more money, more love, whatever, it overpowers your mindset. So dictators, but not just dictators, but people who like anybody who seems to be very invested in authority
Mhm.
because I
Mhm.
said so is like
Yeah.
on the crest. Because I said so is on the crest at the
Mhm.
Overpower headquarters, right?
Well, doesn't and our parents say that all the time?
Well, yeah, right. And nobody's perfectly on one side or the other, by the way,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Now, some people go so far out on the overpower that they become a problem for other human beings.
Mhm.
And so, but I would also say you can get to the empower side of things to the point where you're so invested in that empower piece that you lose sight of the fact that there is a point. The point is
Mhm.
not the empower behavior. The point is the point,
Yes. Yes.
right? So we want to be
Well
mindful of
said.
that
Yes.
too. But I think we're way tilted as a society in the overpower direction. And there are all sorts of examples. I really don't even want to start doing too many of them because we'll have its own conversation. But where we can, I think we are very well served to look for more empower. How can I, in trying to get to where I'm trying to get to, function in a way that is as mutually beneficial as possible? And I think that leads us to be good to other people, but I also think ultimately the flaw in overpower, because it's very tempting. especially if you're the one who has more strength in it or more force in the situation. Just be
Mhm.
like, you know what? I ain't talking about this because I said so.
Mhm.
We're done here, right? But that efficiency, I believe, doesn't account for the energy lost in having to control the situation from then on. So if I'm just overpowering you, right, about not going to this party tonight, right? Now I gotta be staying up, be setting the alarm. I gotta
Mhm.
put somebody in the window to see it, right? Like there's all this other energy that we tend
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ignore is a part of it because we're like, oh, that was so efficient. Like I just said whatever I said and everybody did what I said, but not used effectively and intentionally. I think it actually ends up being a far less efficient thing because more and more listen, there's a reason they had to crack whips on slaves, right? I mean, like, they ain't won't be there. I'm saying instead of slavery, can we create a workforce people want to be a part of
Right.
to sort of continue that youth that very that very violent metaphor? But I think it's a real thing. I think so. We'll talk about that more and where those show up. But I think we've run into a lot of overpower in this world, and I don't. I think a lot of it's more damaging than anything else.
Yeah, I do too. That's what the first thing I thought of when you said talk about power. So I guess my movement was in the overpowering thoughts.
Yeah, no, we'll talk
Mhm.
about it. I joke, and we'll talk about what I mean by this later because we almost got to the hour. But what I've determined about myself as I sit around philosophizing is that I am at heart an empowered person, but I have overpower instincts and capabilities.
Okay, I like it.
So I've been in a few situations where I've been like, don't make me, don't make me. Don't make me get up. Now, I said it to you nice. I'm trying to be empowered over here.
Mhm. Makes me
Don't
think a
don't
lot of the
don't don't
ego
make
thing
me.
too. Anyway,
Say it again.
it makes me think of a lot of the ego conversations that, you could also have surrounding that.
Yeah. Yeah, right. That also be right because it becomes about, well, what are we doing here? Are we trying to achieve a thing?
Mm.
Are we trying to establish how much you are in charge?
Mhm.
Sometimes those don't line up too great, you
That
know?
part.
So
That part.
yeah,
Yep.
no, I hear you. I hear you on that. All right. So anything you want to let folks know? I've been better with these show notes. I'm gonna get them up and share. So anywhere you want folks to follow you, I know you're on your summer hiatus
Yeah, I'm
for
on
Monday
my little
Matters.
so I have a Monday moment show and it's very similar to this in that I usually have a guest that I'm interviewing in all different walks and talks of life, asking them how they found their mojo and whatever it is. Sometimes it's professionals, sometimes, I mean, we're all professionals in our own right, but sometimes they are poets, sometimes they're dancers, they're writers, they're businessmen, politicians. I've just talked to all of the people all over the world about how they found their mojo, whatever it is they're doing. And hopefully you'll figure out how to find yours too when we do that. So that's Mondays at 8 p.m., not starting back until September. But there'll be lots of shenanigans going on in between there at MOJO295 on Instagram. So be following me and my shenanigans there. Never know what we be talking about then.
And we will have that handle in the show notes. And also just come hang out with us.
That's right. We
All right.
ciphering this
Align
week
your
every first
mojo.
Friday too.
Every first Friday is a cipher. We have either a guest or a special conversation. We blend up a drink, our signature cocktail from our resident bartender Mojo. We got our DJ when the conversation's over. We do a good from back in the day to today. So we're
Mm-hmm.
doing these things. We're getting everybody the info and the conversations and the fun and the laughs to be their best selves, live their best lives. Check out Align Originals. Go to On Alignment on Substack. Stay with us. Build a community. Let's have this conversation. We will be powerful together.
We will. I love that.
Until next time, y'all.
See ya.